Hartlik goeiemôre en welkom by hierdie Raisins SA FNB landboupraatjie. Ek's Mark Jennings, jou gasheer nou vir die tweede jaar al. Danksy COVID-19 is ons weer op Zoom. Hopelik volgende jaar sal ons normaal wees en 'n bietjie mekaar kan eyeball 'n slag. Maar daar is 'n propvol program vanoggend met baie interessante aanbieders. Today's FNB Landboupraatjie focuses on innovation and that critical balance and interaction between some important pillars of our industry. And these are in no particular order because they're all important. Corporate governance, environmental considerations, so relevant right now when we think of COP26, which is about to happen in Glasgow later this month. Social issues and the impact on people, very, very important. And of course, economic opportunities and challenges that face the industry. A big thank you to FNB for sponsoring this webinar today and also all the other sponsors who have contributed. We thank you. And if I could ask all delegates today, if you can, please use and support the sponsors who are so selflessly supporting us. We will have a question and answer session after each of the speaker sessions this morning, and you can type your questions in the chat function and you'll find that at the bottom of your screen, and then we will relay those questions. And you can use English or Afrikaans, no problem. Ons kan ons tale meng vanoggend. Our first speaker today is the Head of Information, Marketing and FNB Business. And again, thank you to FNB for sponsoring today's Landboupraatjie. And it is Dawie Maria. Dawie will cover all four of the dimensions that I spoke about earlier in his talk under the umbrella of innovative thinking. And remember, there will be a question and answer session afterwards. So please jot down any questions that you might have. Dawie, goeiemôre en welkom vanoggend.
Goeiedag, 'n voorreg om weer deel te wees van Raisins SA se landboupraatjie vir 2021, tweede jaar in 'n ry wat ons dit aanlyn moet doen. So hopelik volgende jaar kan ons mekaar weer van aangesig tot aangesig sien. Ons praat 'n bietjie oor innoverende denke in krisistye. Twee baie belangrike konsepte vir landbou. En soos ek altyd sê, onthou maar net, ek is verantwoordelik vir wat ek sê en u is verantwoordelik vir wat u verstaan daarvan. As ons gaan kyk na innoverende denke en ons dink aan landbou, dan dink ons altyd aan hommeltuie wat rondvlieg en foto's neem, wat bespuitings dalk doen in wingerde of in lande. Of ons dink aan groot masjinerie wat in lande beweeg deur wingerde wat ons produktiwiteit verhoog. Maar innoverende denke kan ook maar net 'n basiese ding wees. 'n Basiese ding wat jy aanpas vir jouself om dinge makliker te maak of vinniger te maak. So dit gaan nie net oor die groot goed en die tegnologie waarna ons kyk nie. Maar wat is innoverende denke en hoekom is dit belangrik? Dis natuurlik, die definisie daarvan is om vorendag te kom met nuwe idees of 'n ander aanslag om probleme op te los. Die gesegde sê nie verniet 'n boer maak 'n plan nie. En ons is baie bekend daarmee om nuwe goeders te ontwikkel of iets op 'n ander manier na iets te kyk om ons probleme op te los. Krisistye is natuurlik ook nie onbekend vir landbou nie. Dis 'n gebeurtenis waar 'n persoon of 'n besigheid in 'n situasie kom wat hulle huidige hulpbronne oorskry. Ons kan maar net dink aan die droogtegetuisterde dele in die Noord-Kaap en die Oos-Kaap. Ons is ook bekend met vloede langs die Oranje rivier wat ook hierdie krisistye tot gevolg kan hê. En daar's 'n hele klomp ander, sprinkaanpla, veesiektes, allerhande van hierdie probleme wat vir ons in 'n krisistyd kan laat inval. Tegnologie is op die ou end maar net een vorm van 'n innoverende denke wat ons kan gebruik om ons situasie te verbeter of om probleme op te los. Maar ook om ou praktyke te vernuwe. Dis ook 'n vorm van innoverende denke. Want as ons boerderypraktyke nie gaan vernuwe nie, en ons boer soos wat ons voorouers geboer het, gaan ons definitief nie ver in Suid-Afrika kom wat landbou betref nie. Ons weet ook dat die veranderde omgewing vereis innovasie en in landbou verander hierdie omgewing byna op 'n daaglikse basis. Daar's 'n klomp faktore wat 'n rol speel natuurlik. Ons kan kyk na klimaatsveranderinge, politieke veranderinge, al daardie goed speel 'n baie belangrike rol en dit verander die omgewing bitter vinnig. Ons sit nog steeds in 'n pandemie en dit het in baie gevalle die mat onder baie besighede uitgepluk en hulle moes aanpas daarbey. Op die ou end, soos wat ons sê, die bottom line, moet innoverende en innovasie moet dit winsgewendheid verhoog. Dit moet op die ou end jou opbrengs op die plaas verbeter, want ekonomie van skaal speel 'n baie belangrike rol. Of dit moet jou kostes verminder tot so 'n mate dat jou inkomste kan styg. Want winsgewendheid, as jy nie winsgewend is nie, gaan jy nie vooruit boer nie en dan val 'n mens terug in 'n baie slegte omgewing van lae inkomste en lae winsgewendheid en dit veroorsaak dat ons nie kan groei nie. As ons net gaan kyk na innovasie, die laaste 10 jaar het dit verskriklik gegroei. Ons kyk na 10 tipe werke wat 10 jaar gelede nie bestaan het nie. Wat vandag algemene werksgeleenthede is. Die sogenaamde app developer of 'n toep ontwikkelaar, sosiale media, ons kyk na Uber wat natuurlik nie meer onbekend is nie. Natuurlik YouTube, YouTubers, die kinders van vandag is baie bekend daarmee. Ek het gepraat van die hommeltuie, drone operators. Dis deesdae werke wat algemeen toegepas word, ook in landbou. 'n Baie belangrike een daar is die big data analyst, of die sogenaamde data wetenskaplikes, wat 'n baie belangrike rol speel in besluitneming in landbou. Maar wat is hierdie drywers van hierdie verandering? Ons fokus baie, en ongelukkig nog in landbou, fokus ons baie op die politieke veranderinge of selfs die besigheidsveranderinge. En as ons kyk oor tyd, is dit die veranderinge wat die langste vat, of die goed wat die langste vat om te verander. As ons kyk na die sosiale veranderinge en tegnologiese veranderinge, is dit goed wat eksponensieel verander oor tyd. En ek dink dit is waarop ons eerder moet fokus. As ons net, en 'n goeie voorbeeld daarvan is die graanbedryf. Hierdie was top tegnologie gewees in 1985, 16 ry trekker, hy het 'n groot area geplant vir daardie tyd. En soos wat innovasie en tegnologie verbeter het, hier staan ons in 2013, 48 ry trekker, ligdruk planter, en hulle kon 200% meer areas beplant daarmee. Maar tegnologie en wetenskaplik is verander en ons sit met 'n nuwe trekker wat dalk binnekort op hande gaan wees. Hierdie tegnologiese veranderinge oor tyd het natuurlik veroorsaak dat ons produksie baie skerp of baie toegeneem het. Alhoewel, as ons kyk na die grafiek, die aantal hektare wat geplant word onder mielies stelselmatig besig is om af te neem. volatiliteit tussenin natuurlik as gevolg van weeromstandighede. Maar ons moet ook byvoeg dat dit nie net as gevolg is van die tegnologiese verandering en verbetering in masjinerie nie, maar ook in kultivars en natuurlik ook in boerderypraktyke en bestuursbeginsels en bestuursmetodes wat ons landbouers toepas, wat veroorsaak dat ons hierdie stygende opbrengs kan sien in die mieliebedryf. Natuurlik, as ons gaan kyk na die volgende video, is daar ook ander maniere of ander tegnologieë op 'n kleiner skaal wat 'n baie groot impak op ons landboubedryf kan hê. Ek dink dit is baie belangrik om dan ook kennis te neem met hoe ons diep moet gaan dink oor hoe ons hierdie tegnologie in ons boerdery gaan toepas, maar ook wat die effekte daarvan sal wees op werkneming en werkskepping in die landbousektor. Op die ou end gaan ons nie moet begin dink oor opleiding in die landbousektor vir ons werknemers. Die tegnologie wat toegepas gaan word, gaan 'n geweldige impak daarop ook hê. Charles Darwin het gesê, "It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives, it's the one that's the most adaptable to change." En soos wat ons weet, verandering is eintlik die enigste konstante. As ons gaan kyk in die geskiedenis, nie lank terug nie, 21 jaar terug, die top 15 brands wat in die wêreld bestaan het, in terme van die brand value of die waarde van daardie produk, baie bekend is daarbo op, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, IBM, Intel, Nokia, en ek is seker daarvan almal wat, of ten minste die meerderheid van die mense wat na hierdie praatjie luister, het op een of ander stadium van hulle lewe 'n Nokia foon gehad, Nokia 5110, waarskynlik die beste foon wat bestaan het. Maar as ek nou moet vra wie van u het nog 'n Nokia foon, dan dink ek gaan dit waarskynlik dalk 1% wees wat nog die foon het. As ons gaan kyk na veranderinge oor tyd en ek kan maar die video dophou oor wat gebeur en let maar op na verskillende handelsmerke. Nokia is 'n belangrike ene, Microsoft, en jy sal sien, dit is nie baie lank terug nie hoe hierdie handelsmerke verander het. En ek dink dit speel 'n baie belangrike rol in maatskappye wat innoverend gedink het en Nokia byvoorbeeld het gedink hulle is die beste en hulle het die beste foon. En dit was waarskynlik waar gewees, maar op die ouende het die mark hulle ingehaal. Ons kyk na nuwe, new kids on the block, Apple, wat in 2012 eksponensieel van daar af begin groei het. En net ander groot intussen het Nokia van die bord af verdwyn. Samsung is daar, natuurlik soos wat tyd gevorder het, kom die tegnologiese maatskappye, Amazon, Facebook kom op die bord, Google is al reeds daar, so. En in 2018 kan ons sien dat die topmaatskappye is almal tegnologiemaatskappye, Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, en dan Coca-Cola wat maar nog altyd 'n belangrike ene is, daar op die 5de plek. So wie wil u wees? Waar wil jy inpas? Wil jy 'n Nokia wees wat waarskynlik die beste was, maar wat nie aangepas het nie, wat nie anders gedink het nie? Wil jy Apple wees, vinnige groeier, beste tegnologie wat hulle toepas, maar ons weet nie wat die toekoms inhou nie. As ons kyk na, as hulle Nokia se paadjie volg, is dit natuurlik nie die beste maatskappy om te wil wees nie. Of Microsoft. Microsoft was van die begin af daar, derde plek, vierde plek, min of meer, maar hulle was heeltyd in die top 5 gewees. Ek dink wat uitstaan daarvan, en dit is, as ek moet kies, sal ek graag 'n Microsoft wil wees. Want Microsoft het relevant gebly met hulle produkte, hulle het aangepas by die tegnologiese ontwikkelinge, en hulle het toegepas, en hulle dienslewering is uitstekend. Hulle weet wat hulle verbruiker wil hê, en hulle gee dit vir hulle. So hulle pas aan by die tye. Hulle dink anders, hulle dink innoverend, hulle pas aan daarbey, en op die ou end is hulle ingelig, want hulle weet wat hulle verbruiker wil hê. Daarenteen het Nokia gedink, hulle weet, en hulle gee vir die verbruiker wat hulle dink hulle wil hê, maar dit is nie noodwendig wat die verbruiker wil hê nie. Die verbruiker het ook aangepas. So waar pas dit vir ons as 'n finansierder is? Jou bank, waar pas ons in? Nou net soos wat u nie moet dink en anders moet dink in die landboubedryf, moet ons ook nie dink in terme van finansiering. Ons investeer baie geld in innoverende maniere om bankwese te doen, om dit vir u makliker te maak vir ons kliënte. Ons dink maar net aan aanlyn dienste wat gelewer word, nuwe produkte wat geskep word om nuwe goederes te finansier. Ons dink maar aan alternatiewe energie, sonkragstelsels wat ons nou finansier, juis vir boere om elektrisiteitsvoorsiening te handhaaf en natuurlik ook die koste af te bring. Maar op die einde, finansiering is 'n vennootskap tussen die finansierder of die bank en tussen u as die kliënt, die boer. En dit is hoekom verhouding steeds belangrik is. Dit is belangrik dat u 'n verhouding met u bank het wanneer u nuwe goederes wil doen, dat hulle ook ingelig is in terme van die planne wat u beplan. Maar net so ook met die bank u inlig wanneer daar veranderinge gaan wees, sodat u ook op hoogte is van wat gebeur. So om op te som, tegnologie en innovasie dryf doeltreffendheid. As ons dit nie het nie, gaan ons nie die ekonomie van skaal bereik nie, en ons gaan agterbly in die landboubedryf. Maar dit is belangrik om te investeer in die tegnologie en innovasie wat sin maak. Eerstens, gebruik goeders wat jy kan bestuur. Vergeet van die nice to haves, want dit is nie altyd die beste nie. Baie belangrik, bekostigbaarheid, en meer is dit belangrik, die inkomste genererende, innoverende denke. Iets wat op die ou end winsgewendheid gaan verhoog, want winsgewendheid is tog die sleutel tot voortbestaan. Ek het in die begin gesê, ons dink altyd aan die groot goed, maar klein aanpassings in hoe dinge gedoen word, of boerdery metodes, dit kan groot resultate teweegbring. En natuurlik ook met leer by ander, leer by die buurman, leer in ander bedrywe, hoe om dinge anders te doen. Op die ou ende, tegnologie is nie altyd die antwoord nie, want tegnologie kan 'n mens nogal diep in die sop laat beland.
Playing jazz.
Smoothie.
Making smoothie.
Calendar.
No meetings today. Remember, tandläkare at 9:30.
Fire off.
Fire off.
Open door.
Door open. Så ska vi sätta en till.
Fire.
Door open.
Open door.
Run voice command.
Open door.
Run voice command.
Open. Open door.
Repeat that.
Open door.
I didn't understand that.
Hey, open door.
Play on the floor.
Get on the floor. Open the door.
Open the door. Error.
Hey, with a rock. Open door. Open door.
Higher volume. Higher.
Baie dankie vir die tyd en geniet die res van die landboupraatjie.
Well, that was a fascinating insight and just shows how holistic innovation is opening opportunities and taking this industry and others across the world to places unheard of just a few years ago. That was Dawie Maria, Head of Information and Marketing at FNB Business and Agriculture. Dawie is on the line with us, so we will take questions now. En ek gaan die eerste vraag vir jou vra, Dawie. Gee banke herkenning aan produsente wat hul besighede meer innoverend bestuur?
Ek het nou nie die vraag, hy sy net 'n bietjie opgebreek. Ek staan hier op 'n plaas in Mpumalanga, waar mense ook anders dink. So ek sal nou 'n bietjie meer daaroor dalk sê, maar as jy dalk het gevra wie jou vraag kan herhaal.
Seker, Dawie, so gee banke herkenning aan produsente wat hul besighede meer innoverend bestuur?
John, ek dink die erkenning gaan definitief daar in die sin van, ons kyk anders na die besigheid. So die voordeel wat jy kan kry, ons gaan nie noodwendig vir jou sê, okay, jy kry 'n beter rentekoers of iets in daai lyn nie. Maar ek dink die bank het baie en ek dink alle finansierders het baie weggeskuif daarvan om suiwer net na finansiële state te kyk. Ons kyk deesdae, kom ons noem maar die jockey of die bestuurder van die besigheid. Hoe dink hulle, hoe hanteer hulle die besigheid, en dit alles op die ouend speel 'n rol in hoe daarna finansiering gekyk word. So definitief is dit een van die faktore wat in ag geneem word wanneer daar gekyk word na kliënte, ja. Dan, as ons praat van 'n erkenning in die sin van awards en daai tipe goed, dan is daar, FNB het so 'n paar jaar terug begin met Innovation Awards, waar ons kliënte kan nomineer vir innoverende goeders wat hulle gedoen het. So ek dink in daardie opsig definitief iets om in gedagte te hou.
But Dawie, innovation, and certainly you can answer in Afrikaans, innovation is such an important part of this industry, and it's great to see a bank taking on innovation as well. So it's no longer just that conservative approach, but it's a way of growing the South African economy and agriculture through some pretty innovative thinking.
John, yeah, I think the saying goes that, if we farm like our fathers did a couple of years ago, we won't farm in the next 10 years anymore. The risk is always there, and we need that innovative thinking. And I think the same applies to banking as well. If we handle a client or our banking products the same that we did 10 years ago, we won't have any clients left in the next 10 years. So in terms of banking, we definitely need that innovative thinking, because the environment changed. We have COVID, and that actually burned down the box. We can't think outside of the box. There's no box anymore to think around. So definitely innovative thinking across the economy is important to grow our South African economy as well.
Well, Dawie, thank you very much. It's just so reassuring to know that you are there with that kind of thinking and support for the industry. Thank you very much to Dawie Maria, Head of Information and Marketing at FNB Business and Agriculture. It's been a pleasure speaking to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Our next speaker now focuses on the environment, and he's from the NGO Gariep Watch. It's an award-winning entity which has done incredible work in the field of water quality research. Over the last few years, the quality of the water in the Orange River and the Lower Vaal River has deteriorated without, unfortunately, proper management by the authorities. And this has the potential to put the Northern Cape's deciduous fruit industry at risk. For a status report now and an update, please welcome from Gariep Watch, Fritz Becker.
Goeiedag, ek is Fritz Becker van Gariep Watch. Ek wil graag vandag bietjie praat oor die besoedeling van die Oranje rivier en die Laar Vaal rivier en wat Garipwatch daaraan doen. Eerstens die vraag, wat is waterbesoedeling? 'n Kort definisie daarvan kan wees dat dit is wanneer water ongeskik raak vir die oorspronklike doel waarvoor dit gebruik is. Die Oranje rivier, hier aan die regterkant, wat gesien kan word waar die Oranje rivier en die Vaal rivier bymekaar kom, net stroom af van Douglas, is byvoorbeeld vol sedimente. Die vlak van yster en aluminium in die Oranje rivier is natuurlik baie hoog, amper toksies hoog, maar die Oranje rivier is nie noodwendig besoedel oor hierdie natuurlike voorkoms van sedimente en swaarmetale nie. Die Vaal rivier daarenteen, wat hier aan die linkerkant inkom, lyk skoon en helder, maar die Vaal rivier is baie besoedel met sout en as ook riool wat van die Gauteng opvanggebied kom. Mens kan nie water bestuur sonder 'n behoorlike beplande moniteringsprogram nie. Hierdie program moet ontwerp word met 'n spesifieke doel voor oë of 'n duidelike doelwit. Daarna word die frekwensie bepaal, of mens daagliks, weekliks, maandeliks of kwartaalliks moniteer en jou lokaliteite moet deeglik beplan word. Garipwatch moniteer byvoorbeeld kwartaalliks en die lokaliteite is beplan om stroom op en stroom af van geïdentifiseerde besoedelingsbronne te wees. Veranderlikes, soos bakteriologiese veranderlikes of chemiese veranderlikes, moet duidelik uitgestip word, sodat vir die regte veranderlikes gemoniteer word, afhangend van die situasie in die rivier. Die preservering van 'n monster is baie belangrik. Bakteriologiese monsters moet byvoorbeeld teen 6°C gepreserveer word en binne 24 uur by die laboratorium wees. 'n Goeie SANAS geakkrediteerde laboratorium moet gebruik word om die analises te doen. Dit is belangrik, veral in geval die inligting gebruik gaan word vir regsaksie. Die databestuur en die verwerking van die data is net so belangrik. Dit help nie om al hierdie werk te doen en die data is ergens op 'n rekenaar, op 'n Excel-file of bo op 'n kas nie. Die verslagdoening van hierdie data, waar dit 'n behoorlike wetenskaplike verslag opgetrek word, en die verspreiding en gebruik van hierdie verslag word bepaal deur die aanvanklike moniteringsdoelwit. Garipwatch maak gebruik van hierdie 3-fase risiko-analise raamwerk om ons monitering mee te beplan. Ek gaan nie in te veel detail daarin nie, maar ek kan 'n voorbeeld noem. 'n Stressor word geïdentifiseer tydens die eerste fase, wat byvoorbeeld patogene bakterieë is, dan word die bron van hierdie stressor opgespoor, wat in hierdie geval ongesuiwerde rioolvrylatings is. Die reseptore is die mense wat die water gebruik vir drinkdoeleindes. Die roete wat hierdie stressor volg is die Oranje rivier of miskien die drinkwaterstelsel, munisipale drinkwaterstelsel. Die tydsraamwerk is in hierdie geval wanneer die Vaalrivier invloed is en hoë konsentrasies bakterieë in die rivier is, en dan word dit gevolg tot by die endpoint wat miskien siekte of die dood is as gevolg van die patogene bakterieë. Dan vorm ons 'n hipoteses oor die moontlike risiko en indien nodig word dit dan verder besoek in die volgende fase, die analisefase of die risikokarakteriseringsfase. Hier word die ekologiese effekte ondersoek deur biologiese monitering in die rivier of toksikologiese werk. Garipwatch het 10 moniteringspunte op die middel- en laer Oranje rivier, wat deur die watergebruikersverenigings en die produsente organisasies gemoniteer word. As ek stroom op in die rivier begin, onder van der Kloof Dam, het ons die eerste punt, dan net na Orania, dan by De Bron, net stroom af van Hopetown, dan het ons 'n punt by Marksdrift, Prieska, Boegoeberg, Appington, Kanon-eiland, Kakamas en ons Kans. Die Vaalaards Distriks Landbouunie doen vir ons die watermonitering op die laer Vaalrivier. En as ek stroom op begin, die heel stroom op moniteringspunt is net onder die Bloemhofdam, Dan is die volgende moniteringspunt by die onttrekkingspunt van die Valarts skema, net onder die Spitskopdam in die Hartsrivier, is 'n moniteringspunt. Dan by Douglas weer, en die laaste punt is net voor die samevloei met die Oranje rivier, ons Walkasa punt. Ons kon 7 watergehalte risiko's identifiseer vir die gebruikers op die Oranje rivier en Laar-Vaal rivier. Dit sluit in huishoudelike gebruikers, akwatiese ekosisteme, landbou en toerisme. Die eerste risiko, wateroordraagbare siektes, is as gevolg van die baie ongesuiwerde riool vanaf die plaaslike owerhede. Hier is die risiko dat siektes soos cholera, hepatitis A, diarree, tyfus ensovoorts oorgedra kan word na die watergebruikers. Die tweede risiko, verhoogde soutkonsentrasies. Dit is hoofsaaklik afkomstig van die Vaalrivier en heel moontlik vanuit die mynbedryf. 'n Groot risiko vir die landboubedryf is die verhoogde kloriedkonsentrasie. Dan die swaarmetale wat veral gevind word stroom af van rioolsuiweringswerke en in die riviersedimente. Nou die metale wat die verhoogde konsentrasies van gemeet is byvoorbeeld lood, kook, yster en aluminium en mangaan. Verhoogde stikstofkonsentrasies is gekry, stroom af van 'n groot mynbedryf naby Prieska. Nou stikstof is nou 'n byproduk van plofstof wat deur die myne gebruik word. En baie gevaarlik, dit kan die siekte metahemoglobine veroorsaak, wat die suurstof vervoer deur die bloed beïnvloed. Dan nog 'n risiko is eutrofikasie, en dit is nou die nutriëntverryking van die rivier deur plantnutriënte soos stikstof en fosfaat, wat dan tot die opbloei van alge veroorsaak, veral die blaugroen alge wat toksines kan afgee, wat nie deur gewone watersuiwering uit die water gehaal kan word nie. Volgende risiko, waarvan ons nog min verstaan, is die farmaseutiese oorblyfsels. Dit is duidelik dat baie van die riool afkomstig is van hospitale. En die medisyne wat mense gebruik, beland in die riool. As die riool nie behoorlik gesuiwer word nie, dan eindig dit op in die rivier en die farmaseutiese oorblyfsels daarmee saam. Een voorbeeld hier is antibiotika, wat by lae konsentrasies in die rivier is, en mense word dan blootgestel aan hierdie lae konsentrasies, wat antibiotika weerstandigheid veroorsaak. Bakterieë in die rivier word ook blootgestel aan hierdie lae konsentrasies antibiotika, wat dan ook veroorsaak dat die bakterieë weerstandig is teen hierdie antibiotika. Dan die laaste watergehalte risiko, verminderde vloei. Dit is met fase 2 van die Lesotho Hoogland waterskema, waar beduidend minder water in die Oranje rivier gaan invloei, as gevolg van onttrekkings vir Gautengse watergebruik. Hierdie grafiek wys duidelik die puntbronne van besoedeling. Die grafiek is vir E. coli, dit is Escherichia coliforme, dit is 'n bakterie wat net 'n aanduiding is van menslike riool in die water. Nou daar behoort geen E. coli in die Oranje rivier te wees nie. Hierdie grafiek is vir die Oranje rivier van stroom op by Van der Kloof, Oranje, De Bron, Marksdrift, Prieska, Boegoeberg, Appington, Kanon-eiland tot by Onseepkans. En hier kan duidelik gesien word waar die groot rioolprobleme is. By Van der Kloof, by Oranje is 'n probleem. De Bron stroom af van Hopetown, wat ons ook sien die effek tot by Marksdrift. By Prieska is 'n probleem, dan is daar 'n area waar daar minder probleme is, en dan weer by Appington, Kanon-eiland, Kakamas, begin daar weer 'n probleem. Maar die grootste probleem is in hierdie area. En ons het ondersoek gaan doen in November 2020, puntbron ondersoek, en ons het verskeie van die puntbronne gevind. 'n ander groot probleem wat ons gekry het met 'n vloedmoniteringsprogram wat ons gedoen het in Januarie en Februarie 2021, was daar dat 'n first flush, 'n eerste vloed van riool vanaf die Vaalrivier in die Oranje rivier invloei. Hierso kan duidelik gesien word dat die bakterietelling, die E. coli telling, is gewoonlik hier in die orde van 40 in die Oranje rivier naby Appington, en dan skielik kry mens hierdie, binne 'n paar dae, hierdie hoë konsentrasies. Nou hierdie water moet gesuiwer word deur die munisipaliteit, en hulle verwag nie altyd hierdie hoë konsentrasies nie, wat dan veroorsaak dat hierdie bakterieë deurglip in die drinkwater in van die gemeenskappe. Nou hierdie puls van riool word veroorsaak deur die reënval in die Vaalrivier opvanggebied en Gauteng, as ook Kroonstad se riool wat dan in die Oranje rivier beland. Ons het die puntbronne van besoedeling gaan soek en gaan vinnig 'n paar van hulle noem, net die belangrikstes wat ons opgespoor het. Hierso is Van der Kloof, die dorp Van der Kloof, hier is Van der Kloof dam, het ons duidelik gesien hoe die riool by die rioolwerke deursyfer uit een van die dam uit ongesuiwer en in die Van der Kloof, direk in die Van der Kloof dam inloop met 'n E. coli konsentrasie van 750 kolonievormende eenhede. Dan het ons ook gekry by Hopetown, Thembalihle. Dit is waarskynlik die grootste probleem in die Middel-Oranje rivier met rou riool wat basies van Hopetown af in die Oranje rivier inloop met 'n baie hoë E. coli konsentrasie van 3130 CFU's. En dit veroorsaak baie hoë konsentrasie in die rivier, meer as 1200 kolonievormende eenhede in die rivier gekry. Volgende noemenswaardige probleem wat ons gekry het in Douglas, ons het lank gesoek vir die probleem dat ons hoë konsentrasies bakterieë stroom afkry by ons Wakasa punt en lae konsentrasies stroom op by die Douglas weer. Ons het binne hierdie maand, eintlik 'n paar dae terug, het Pierre Joseph van Oranjewaal vir my hierdie foto gestuur. So sien dit is 'n screenshot wat ons gekry het van 'n uitvloeisel wat ons nie vroeër kon opspoor nie, wat omtrent in daai area is na die rivier toe. So ons het die bron van hierdie riool uitvloeisel na die Oranje rivier het ons gevind. Appington, die Kameelmond rioolwerke werk glad nie. En baie min van die riool van Appington kom by die rioolwerke uit. Daar tans egter goeie vordering met die David Kruiper munisipaliteit en alles is eintlik in plek vir hulle om hulle rioolprobleem op te los. En ons hoop dat hulle die nodige werk betyds gaan doen. Gariepwatch en die watergebruikers verstaan die rivier en die rivier se watergehalte probleme nou baie beter. Ons het 'n strategie ontwikkel om elke puntbron aan te spreek en nuus te identifiseer. Dit is heeltemal moontlik om die rivier binne die volgende 3 tot 5 jaar weer redelik skoon te kry van besoedeling. En dan bestuursmaatreëls te ontwikkel vir die oorblywende probleme, soos byvoorbeeld wanneer die erge besoedeling vanaf die Vaalrivier afkom. Dankie en Gariepwatch groete.
Well, it's rather terrifying to think of the life artery of the industry, the Orange River and the Vaal River, being polluted and negatively affecting agriculture. But so good to know that organizations like Gariepwatch can highlight the issues and hopefully help find solutions. That was Fritz Becker from the NGO Gariepwatch. Fritz is still with us. And Fritz, sal die water van die Oranje rivier ooit weer kan herstel word tot normaal?
Mark, ja, 'n rivier is eintlik ontsettend veerkragtig. As die watergehalte verbeter, dan sal die organismes wat oorleef het in stroomopgedeeltes, soos byvoorbeeld onder die Van der Kloofdam, sal weer die rivier herkolonialiseer en die rivier kan herstel. Maar die groot probleem met 'n rivier is as jy damme begin bou. Want 'n dam is 'n barrier waaroor hierdie organismes en die vis dan nie kan beweeg nie. Dis een van die probleme. Die ander probleem is as die sedimente besoedel is en daar's nie genoegsame vloed om hierdie sedimente uit te vat nie. Gewoonlik gebeur dit as daar te veel damme in 'n stelsel is. En wat ons nou op hierdie stadium in die rivier sien is dat die sedimente wel geaffekteer is, veral stroom af van hierdie rioolsuiweringswerke wat sulke probleme gee. Maar oor die algemeen verras die veerkragtigheid van die rivierstelsels 'n mens. Wanneer die mikroalge kan begin terugkom en daar is nie 'n oorvloed plantnutriënte in die water nie, dan begin die akwatiese invertebrate terugkom en die vis terugkom, en dan wat mens nodig het is 'n lekker balans van die rivier. En wat mense nie eintlik verstaan altyd nie, is dat daai rivier is 'n suiweringsmeganisme. En as dit nie vir die rivier was nie, sal dit biljoene rande kos om al die water te suiwer wat in hom inloop. Terwyl na 'n paar kilometer, soos wat ons kan sien, stroom af van Appington tot by Kanoneiland, verrig daardie rivier 'n wonderlike suiweringsfunksie.
And I suppose a positive thing is when you look at the Thames River in London, which was so terribly polluted some time ago, and the authorities have stepped in, and now there are fish species that occur again in the Thames River and the estuary that were never there before, and hopefully the same can happen here. Fritz, are you finding that the authorities are responding, and industries that are contributing to pollution, are they responding positively to your research?
I'm very disappointed with the Department of Water Affairs, or the Department of Water and Sanitation, because they have the role to be the caretakers of the river, and they're not doing that at all. And you cannot manage a river, you cannot manage water quality if you do not do monitoring in the river. And they stopped monitoring in 2014. So I don't know what they're doing at the moment.
We've got a question from Skalk van der Merwe, and we're going to try and bring Skalk up live. Skalk, are you able to join us? If not, we'll then just go on to the next question. I think we're battling to get Skalk. But I'll have a look on the chat line, and maybe I'll be able to get that question there. Fritz het geripwatch die tande om hierdie munisipaliteite hof toe te val en hulle tot verantwoordelikheid te bring. So what kind of pressure can you bring to bear, I guess is the question.
Ja, dit is 'n goeie vraag, maar want ons beweeg in die rigting waar ons 'n onafhanklike waterreguleerder nodig het. Omdat die konstitusie en die nasionale waterwet is eintlik geskryf dat magte weggevat word van die staat en dat dit na die opvanggebiede toe gaan. En wat ons in geripwatch is waarskynlik 'n voorloper daarvan, is om 'n onafhanklike waterreguleerder te word. En ja, ons het tande, want ons kan enige hof nader vir interdikte of kriminele aksie of groepseise of siviele eise. En dit wat geripwatch mee besig is, as jy mooi gekyk het na die praatjie, ons is besig om forensiese kwaliteit data in te win vir ingeval ons eendag 'n groepseis moet instel. En as daar skade is as gevolg van hierdie bronne van besoedeling, wat eintlik maar net deur nalatigheid van die munisipale owerhede gebeur. As daar skade is, dan het ons die inligting om 'n eis in te stel en die howe te nader met behoorlike forensiese kwaliteit, goeie wetenskaplike inligting.
Fritz, the questions are coming thick and fast, so obviously this is an issue that affects everyone deeply. Anel asks, waar kan ons die produsente inligting kry oor die statistieke? And that will presumably be on your website.
Julle kan maar vir geripwatch of vir my nader oor die statistieke van spesifieke areas. Ons hou 'n database van die watergehalte monitering wat ons doen. En ons versprei hierdie databasis na al ons vennote in die rivier. Van die stroomop areas het ons die watergebruikersverenigings wat vir ons die monitering doen, en ons versprei dan ons verslae na hulle toe. Ons skryf kwartaallikse wetenskaplike verslae oor wat ons kry. Dan doen ons risiko-ontledings waar ons al hierdie data weer bymekaar sit en gaan kyk wat is die risiko vir spesifieke gebruikers op die stelsel. En dit doen ons omtrent jaarliks, en dan doen ons ook biologiese monitering wat ons gaan kyk na die akwatiese ekosisteme en die gesondheid daarvan. En dit doen ons ook nou 2 jaarliks, en hierdie inligting is beskikbaar. Dit kan van Raisins SA aangevra word of direk van my of van die watergebruikersverenigings.
Fritz Neeltron vra enige koliform telling, monitering en beheer?
Neil, ja, kyk, ons doen bakteriologiese monitering. En die koliforme, die E. coli's word gemeet, maar en ook die totale koliforme en ook die fekale koliforme. Wat vir ons dan 'n aanduiding gee van wat die bakteriologiese kwaliteit van die water is. Om vir jou 'n idee te gee, rondom Appington is die gemiddelde E. coli telling rondom 44, daar moet geen E. coli in die water wees nie. Maar E. coli is 'n aanduiding van menslike riool, menslike afval. Dit behoort nie in die rivier te wees. Vroeger jare, toe ek nog by die departement van waterwese was, as daar 'n E. coli opgetel word in die hartbeesprogram, al is dit 5 koliforme eenhede, dan ry al die bakkies om te gaan kyk waar kom die riool vandaan, en dit is gevaarlik. So dit wat ons op hierdie stadium beleef, die hoeveelhede riool wat in die riviere inloop, is ongekend. Ons is soos hulle sê, ons is op uncharted territory om te kyk wat die effek hiervan is. En die grootste effek wat ons tot dusver gesien het, is hoe siek die mense word. Dat die munisipaliteite nie die riool kan suiwer nie. Om vir jou 'n voorbeeld te gee, die mense by Orania drink van der Kloof se riool. Die mense by Hopetown drink Orania en van der Kloof se riool. Die mense by Appington drink almal se rioolstroom op. En as daar 'n foutjie kom by die suiwering, dan is dit riool wat in die drinkwater is, soos wat gebeur in Appington, en dit het ons opgetel op die hospitaalrekord. So dit is 'n enorme probleem.
Wow, it certainly is, and it's an issue that we are going to be concerned about for some time. But thank heavens that there are people like Fritz Becker and the NGO Garib Watch who are out there to bring these issues to the fore, and hopefully with that concerted effort, a positive improvement will be made. So if you have any further questions to ask, please either work through Raisins SA or through Garib Watch. But thank you very much to Fritz Becker and your team for all that you do, incredible work that you do. Thank you.
Pleasure.
And now on to our next speaker. CESA is the sustainability initiative of South Africa, providing a platform for agricultural stakeholders to ensure ethical and environmentally sustainable trade. Now, international markets are fastidious about studying these reports and the audits. It's very, very important to them. And our next speaker is Werner van Dijk, and Werner is from CESA.
CESA, 'n kreatiewe en innoverende manier van doen en dink. Daar was oor die laaste tydperk verskeie uitdagings wat tot gevolg gehad het dat produsente en die industrie in krisistye gedompel was. Om vooruitstrewendheid te dryf, moes CESA aanpas om seker te maak die behoeftes van produsente kan hanteer word. Interaksie met kopers reg oor die wêreld was en bly een van die belangrikste aspekte waarop CESA moes fokus. Verloor ons die mark, beteken dit 'n produsent moet tussen 20 en 40 etiese audits doen. CESA het proaktief seker gemaak om aanlyn en op 'n gereelde basis interaktiewe sessies met kopers te hê, om sodoende altyd bewus te bly van die vereistes en die uitdagings. Ons almal moes ook aanpas oor hierdie tydperk, en iewers het die besef baie vinnig gebeur dat ons almal in 'n moderne eeu moet inklim en gebruik maak van aanlyn tegnologie en digitale programme om te kommunikeer, te werk of basies enige interaksie met die buitewêreld vas te stel. Besigheid moet voortgaan ten spyte van die uitdagings, en dit is waar derde party audits 'n belangrike rol speel. En die aanpassings wat CESA bewerkstellig het besighede die vermoë gegee om te kon voortgaan tydens hierdie moeilike tyd. Bewusmaking, opleiding en gereelde kommunikasie was van die sterkpunte wat verseker het dat produsente ingelig bly, ten spyte van die afstand en die tekort aan fisiese interaksie. Produsente het ook bewys dat digitale maniere van kommunikeer en opleiding bywoon dit moontlik gemaak het om tog op grondvlak te kon kommunikeer en sodoende die korrekte inligting oor te dra om wanpersepsies op grondvlak uit te skakel. Miskommunikasie en wanpersepsies veroorsaak skade aan die industrie en benadeel produsente op die ouend van die dag. En daarom het CISA seker gemaak, daar is altyd 'n oop lyn van kommunikasie en 'n kantoor wat reg deur die jaar beskikbaar is vir produsente. Soos genoem, is die wêreldkopers nie net een van die belangrikste aspekte tot die verskaffingsketting nie, maar is dit ook belangrik dat die kopers wat die CISA-program aanvaar, betekenisvol is tot die koste-effektiewe program en daardeur kan die industrie onnodige duplisering van audits vermy. CISA se aanvaarding groei gereeld, wat beteken dat denke en tegnologie moet bybly by die res van die wêreld. Tans word CISA aanvaar deur 298 besighede in 16 verskillende lande oor 3 platforms, insluitend MyCISA, SEDEX en Global Gap. Daar is ook sigbaarheid van CISA op die ITC, wat 'n globale platform is. Soos met die MyCISA platform as ook Global Gap, is sigbaarheid vir die onderskeie kopers baie belangrik. So nou vra ons, waarom SEDEX? Dit word vereis deur sekere kopers, veral in die VK, om CISA-inligting beskikbaar te maak op SEDEX, omrede hulle al hul verskaffers reg oor die wêreld op hierdie manier hanteer. Huidiglik bestuur CISA meer as 1600 van die CISA-lede se SEDEX-profiele namens hulle. Dit is 'n diens wat CISA lewer aan produsente teen 'n verlaagde fooi wat ooreengekom was met SEDEX, spesifiek vir CISA-lede. Weereens dryf CISA 'n koste-effektiewe program wat ook die duplisering vermy, sodat produsente nie onnodig 'n aparte profiel op SEDEX ook moet bestuur nie. CISA verteenwoordig ook meer as 40 verskillende kommoditeite in Suid-Afrika, waarvan sitrus, kern- en steenvrugte die grootste groep kommoditeite uitmaak. Maar buiten vrugte is daar ook reeds verskeie ander produsente wat CISA gebruik om aan minimum wetgewing te voldoen as ook globale standaarde, om op die ouend van die dag marktoegang te verkry, soos byvoorbeeld onder andere graan, wol, suiker en ook vleiskommoditeite. Dit is 'n getuigskrif dat die program alle sektore in landbou 'n vernoot gee om marktoegang te ontvang en terselfdertyd aan die minimum vereistes te voldoen, om sodoende voortdurende verbetering te dryf. Waarom is dit belangrik dat produsente hul profiele op MyCISA op datum hou en ook seker maak hulle voldoen aan al die vereistes? Kopers wil sekere inligting sien van hul verskaffers, onder andere of die produsent se lidmaatskap op datum is, hoe die produsent vorder met hul jaarlikse selfassesseringsvraelyste en ook hul audituitkomste. Kopers kan al hierdie inligting sien en daarom is dit belangrik dat produsente op datum bly met hul profiele. Produsente het toegang tot wêreldklas MyCISA platform om seker te maak hulle kan al die nodige nakomingsvereistes hierdeur rapporteer en so ook bestuur. Om te verseker audits kan voortgaan om sodoende produsente die geleentheid te gee om sekerheid aan kopers te gee dat hul praktyke in plek is en ook so kon aangaan met uitvoere tydens die afgelope tydperk se uitdagings, het CISA auditprosesse in plek gesit wat steeds die kern en geloofwaardigheid van die audit bevredig en sodoende die produsent die geleentheid gee om 'n audit te voltooi, as ook kopers se vereistes te bevredig. Produsente het die opsie om aansoek te doen vir 'n oorbruggingsperiode. Hierdie opsie is moontlik wanneer 'n vorige audit alreeds verval het en die nuwe audit van die produsent nog nie ten volle afgehandel is nie as gevolg van uitstaande regstellings. Produsente kan dan aansoek doen vir hierdie oorbruggingsperiode wat hulle dan assisteer met addisionele tyd om die regstellings te voltooi en intussen met 'n geldige audit suksesvol om kopers te kan lewer. Daar is ook die opsie van 'n off-site on-site audit wat produsente in staat stel om aansoek te doen vir 'n verlengingssertifikaat. Hierdie opsie was aanvanklik ontwikkel tydens vlak 5 en 4 inperkings van COVID-19, wanneer die toegang tot die perseel beperk was. 50% van hierdie audit word dan aanlyn afgehandel, waarna 'n voorlopige regstellingsverslag uitgereik word. 55% van die audit word dan op die perseel afgehandel op 'n tyd wanneer die ouditeur toegang tot die perseel kan kry. Hierdie opsie is natuurlik ook onderhewig aan sekere voorwaardes, soos dat die produsent nie 'n kritiese bevinding kry nie of 'n bronsrisikogradering ontvang nie. Produsente moet ook baie seker maak dat hierdie opsie aanvaar word deur hulle kopers. En dan laastens die gewone of tradisionele on-site audit. Hierdie audits kon ook voortgaan soos normaal en alle auditfirmas en ouditeure maak seker dat die nodige voorsorgmaatreëls in plek is om alle partye te beskerm. In terme van etiese audits en die groei oor die laaste paar jaar, kan daar gesien word dat die aantal audits meer as verdubbel het vanaf 2016 tot 2021 en die vooruitskatting bepaal dat audits al meer gaan raak, soos verskillende kommoditeite ook audits moet begin ondergaan en ook soos markaanvaarding groei en die vereistes vir audits meer word. Omgewingsaudits word reeds vereis vanaf sekere kopers, maar die uiteinde van die omgewingsprogram dryf die verantwoordelikheid wat by ieder en elk van ons is om na die omgewing om te sien. Dit is 'n gedeelde verantwoordelikheid en nie slegs 'n vereiste wat afgedwing word nie. Die CISA omgewingsstandaard is ook gebou op minimum Suid-Afrikaanse wetgewing en is 'n omvattende standaard wat alle pilare van die omgewingsvolhoubaarheid en bestuur insluit. Belangrike aspekte wat reeds op die voorgrond is, soos klimaatsverandering en koolstofvrystellings, word deur middel van die standaard bestuur en hierdeur kan produsente so ook hul omgewingspraktyke ooreenkomstig in lyn hou met wetgewing, maar terselfdertyd dryf na meer volhoubare produksie en bestuurspraktyke. Omgewingsaudits is relatief nuut en Suid-Afrika is op die voorgrond. Daar het reeds 'n paar omgewingsaudits plaasgevind en die vooruitskatting is dat dit baie vinnig gaan groei, soos kopers wêreldwyd die vereiste in plek gaan sit in hulle waardeketting. CISA se digitale rekordhouding is 'n nuwe inisiatief wat groot voordele inhou vir die industrie, maar spesifiek 'n aanwinst sal wees vir enige besigheid wat daarvan gebruik wil maak. Daar het reeds produsente opgeteken hiervoor en dit sal amptelik aan die einde van Oktober formeel geloods word. Digitale rekordhouding stel produsente en enige besigheid in staat om op besigheid se produksierekords, uitsette en effektiwiteit van sekere aktiwiteite te monitor om sodoende te bepaal waar daar beter volhoubaarheid gehandhaaf kan word, om sodoende die besigheid se produksie te verhoog en uitsette en effektiwiteit in lyn te bring met beste praktyk. Digitale rekordhouding is 'n hulpmiddel en glad nie 'n formele audit nie, alhoewel dit vir besigheid baie waardevol sal wees tydens 'n audit en ook om hul eie rekordhouding en praktyke te monitor.
So, you think you're pretty good at record keeping? Let's see. Do you know whether your water management practices are effective and efficient? How about your electricity or fuel efficiency? Thought so. Introducing CISA's amazing new digital record-keeping tool. With the click of a button, you can generate instant reports, analyze trends, monitor your current management practices, and keep track of the progress made toward your continuous improvement goals. CISA's digital record-keeping tool also keeps track of other production data, such as waste production, fertilizer application, and so much more. Best of all, your data is captured and stored in one secure online platform, making complicated spreadsheets and messy manual filing a thing of the past.
Woohoo! Yes!
This cost-effective tool is available to all sectors and commodities, any producer or facility, local or global, whether you are a CISA member or not. Take control of your business and make your data work for you. To find out more about how CISA's digital record-keeping tool can benefit your business, register today for CISA's informational webinar.
CISA bied ook 'n verskeidenheid van kommunikasie en hulpbronne aan CISA-lede en probeer om so ver as moontlik dit ook gratis te doen. Hierdie hulpbronne sluit in 'n verskeidenheid van kapasiteitsbou en voorbereidingsmateriaal, soos die CISA Cares program, waar 'n tweede party verifiering deur 'n omgewingsspesialis 'n produsent in staat stel om voor te berei vir 'n audit en 'n beter verstaan te kry rondom omgewingsvolhoubaarheid. Daar is ook tussen-audit moniteringsbesoeke wat produsente help om praktyke te monitor tussen formele derde party audits. Daar is ook verskeie induksievideo's en plakate wat bydra tot produsente en landbouwerkers se verstaan van die program en algemene beginsels wat hand vashou met volhoubaarheid en landswette. Daar is ook video's waar produsente gesels oor die CISA program en die waarde daarvan deel. Hierdie video's is vir almal en kan met kopers gedeel word, want dit verskaf op die ouend van die dag geloofwaardigheid aan die program as ook die algehele industrie. Daar is tans 11 opleidingsprogramme wat aangebied word wat produsente enige tyd kan deel. Daar is ook nuusbriewe, een vir die koper met 'n markfokus, 'n nuusbrief vir produsente wat algemene programinligting bevat, as ook 'n auditeursnuusbrief waar auditaspekte en wetgewing bespreek word. Buiten 'n groot biblioteek van hulpbronne op die CISA webtuiste wat ook vrylik beskikbaar is dit baie belangrik dat produsente CISA kommunikasie soos e-posse vanaf die platform en nuusbriewe ontvang en lees. Hierdie kommunikasie dien 'n belangrike doel om op hoogte te bly en seker te maak audits en SAQs bly op datum en enige verandering in die program wat dalk van toepassing tot hulle kan wees. Baie dankie vir hierdie geleentheid en asseblief voel vry om CISA enige tyd te kontak.
Thank you very much, Werner van Dijk of CISA, and thanks for that very professional presentation, showing us that there is a lot of work to be done in this regard and that we need to keep up with all the requirements. So joining us now is Rita Low, who is the Chief Executive Officer of CISA, and we are going to ask our first question. Rita, hoekom moet ons self opsaal met omgewings en hierdie etiese audits?
Dis eenvoudig, wanneer 'n produsent sy mark kies, dan kies hy in effek die vereistes waaraan hy moet voldoen. So CISA is 'n vrywillige program, maar om jou vrugte op die oorseese mark te kry, is jy genoodsaak om aan sekere markvereistes te voldoen. En in my eerlike opinie, dink ek CISA is die beste alternatief. Jy kan natuurlik 'n globale audit gaan doen, want daar's baie van hulle, maar Suid-Afrika is die enigste land in die wêreld wat sy eie standaard het, so CISA. So CISA is geskryf vir Suid-Afrika, hy's gebou vir ons produsente, so as jy jou vrugte wil uitvoer, is dit eenvoudig maar wat jy moet doen. Jy het nie werklik 'n keuse nie.
And I suppose if one starts and keeps up with these kind of audits, and you are there to give all kinds of information that you keep asking, you say, come to us for assistance. If one keeps up as a producer with these audits, then it's not too onerous, it's not too difficult a task, is it? Knowing that it's so important that the markets they put a lot of store by these audits.
Ons sê altyd CISA is 'n leefstyl. Ek dink as jy dit die eerste keer doen, is dit nogal baie moeilik. Ek dink dit vat baie tyd om jou eerste selfassesseringsvraelyste in te vul. Ek dink jy wil eintlik die rekenaars breek as jy dit die eerste keer doen, want dit is vreemd. Daar is geweldig baie vereistes. Dit vat lank en ek dink nie 'n produsent het heeltemal opgesign om agter 'n rekenaar te sit nie, want hy wil boer. Hy wil nie regtig sit en admin doen nie. Maar as jy dit vir 'n paar jaar doen, dan dink ek raak dit makliker. En as jy dit 'n lewenstyl maak, dat jy vir jouself sê, kyk, ek wil graag my vrugte uitvoer op die oorseese mark. Ek moet aan hierdie vereistes voldoen. En jy aanvaar dat CISA 'n hulpmiddel is. Want onthou, daar's 'n verskil tussen CISA en die auditfirmas wat jou kom audit. Die auditfirmas is derde party. Hulle is heeltemal onafhanklik van ons. Dit is ook, moet deur die oorseese mark aanvaar word. En ja, jy hou heel moontlik nie van die ouditeur wat op jou plaas is nie, maar CISA probeer deur hierdie hele proses onafhanklik bly. So as jy nie gelukkig is met wat tydens die audit gebeur is nie, dan nooi ons vir jou om met CISA te kom gesels en dan sal ons probeer om as 'n onafhanklike party dit tussen jou en tussen die ouditeur uitgesorteer te kry. Maar in my eerlike raad en my eerlike opinie, maak dit 'n lewenstyl, want dan raak dit makliker. En as jy enige vrae het of enige probleme het, bel vir CISA. Ons is regtig nie die vyand nie. Ons wil graag help. Ons mag nie konsulteer nie, maar ons kan, soos hulle sê, ons kan nie referee en player wees nie, maar ons wil graag die produsent help en ons wil dit graag makliker vir hom maak. Want ons weet hierdie is baie vereistes en ons weet hulle hou nie daarvan nie. So ja, ek nooi julle om ons te bel.
And I think, Rita, as they say, knowledge is power. So just to have the statistics that get built up over many years and then being able to refer back to them, one can see trends and ways to improve the business. So although it is a bit of a difficult thing, as you say, in the beginning to come to terms with. Once you've built up that store of information, it can only help the industry and everybody in it.
Absoluut, weet jy, ons is eintlik baie trots op die vrugteprodusente, want vrugteprodusente hou dit nou al, hulle kom met hierdie program al uit 2012 uit. So die vrugteprodusente is myle voor ander produsente, want hulle het hierdie goed al oor en oor en oor gedoen. So as jy nou teruggaan en ons kry nou baie nuwe kommoditeite by, so as jy nou skielik by CISA aansluit as 'n hoenderprodusent of varkprodusent of selfs volstruise, hulle kom almal nou na CISA toe, want dit raak al hoe meer markvereiste en hulle moet 'n program kies om by te bly. So as ons na hierdie produsente kyk en ons vergelyk hulle met ons vrugteprodusente, ag, jy kan hulle nie eers in dieselfde sin noem nie. So uit 'n CISA oogpunt en uit 'n markoogpunt spog ek met die vrugteprodusente, want ek dink hulle doen uitstekend. Ek weet dit is nie maklik nie, en ek weet die mark vra partymal onrealistiese vereistes, maar van CISA se kant af, ons beklei vir produsente. Die hele ding rondom, soos byvoorbeeld, hulle noem dit 'n living wage. Ons beklei vir ons produsente en sê, luister, in Suid-Afrika werk 'n living wage nie. Ons het 'n sektorale vaststelling en ons het 'n nasionale minimumloon. So ek dink die produsente besef altyd hoe baie ons vir die mark sê, luister, hierdie kan nie werk op Suid-Afrikaanse grondvlak nie, want dit werk nie vir Suid-Afrika nie. Want ons het weekliks in gesprek met van die kopers oor see en ja, ek dink net eenvoudig CISA moet 'n vennoot raak en hy moenie regtig net 'n oudit wees nie.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking to Reetta Louw, the Chief Executive Officer of CISA, the Sustainability Initiative of South Africa. And if you have any questions or if you'd like to be in contact with Reetta, please do so. They are willing to help in a variety of ways. Thanks very much to Reetta.
Thank you.
Our next speaker has a wealth of experience in market research, global markets, and the development of strategy. And I've lifted this quote from his website. All businesses, he said, should invest in understanding more about markets, supply chains, competitors, and what is happening close to home and on the other side of the world. There are more ways of getting agri-food and drink products to consumers than ever before, and this forms the basis of future opportunities for well-informed and forward-thinking businesses. So I can't think of a better way of introducing the Divisional Director of Agri-Food at Promar International in the UK. A very good morning and welcome to John Giles.
Good morning, Ferdy, to you and your colleagues in South Africa, and thanks for asking me to join you this morning. Obviously, Ferdy, you and I know each other pretty well. For those who don't know me, my name is John Giles. I'm a divisional director at a company called Promar International. We're an agri-food market research consultancy company, and we've done a number of projects with Ferdy and Raisins South Africa over the last couple of years. And Ferdy asked me a couple of weeks ago to join you this morning and talk about how do you get a premium in the UK food market? And hopefully in the next 15 minutes or so, I can give some indication of how that can be achieved. Just in terms of, why might it be me talking to you this morning? I say my name is John Giles. I'm a divisional director at Promar. I've been very fortunate in the time that I've been at Promar that I've been sent all around the world. I've been to South Africa on a number of occasions, but I've also been to places like Chile and Peru, Spain, Turkey, Israel, the United States, and so on and so forth. And I've worked on a whole range of projects. A lot of those have been in the horticultural sector, so whether that's fresh fruit and vegetables, or dried, or frozen, or canned, or juices. Work in horticulture has always been a sort of subject close to my heart. And then I'm also fortunate that I've been involved in a number of other industry organisations as well in the time I've been at Promar. And I understand there's a Q&A session, Ferdy, at the end of all this, and so I'll be happy to elaborate on any of the points I'm making now or answer any other questions that you and your colleagues may have. Ferdy asked us to talk about how do you get a premium in the UK food market, and I said to Ferdy, sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek, but I don't think I was joking completely, that actually that's a very easy answer. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes resource, it takes good marketing nous and skills as well, and you have to have a good product as well, of course, to begin with, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. And it takes time, and in that time there will be some bumps and bruises on the way, and it won't always be totally straightforward and all plain sailing. So commitment to the cause, I think, is an important thing, but there's much more to it than just that. But I think one of the first things to say is getting a premium in the UK food market. It's what many UK food companies aspire to. It's what people in South Africa or Chile or Peru or the United States, they all aspire to achieve a premium in the UK. But I say my first answer to Ferdy was, well, that's quite an easy one to answer, Ferdy. It's pretty hard work, but it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible, as you well know. I think in terms of when you look at the case study I'm going to use, rather than talking about dried fruit, you'll probably all dry fruit out by the end of the day, when I know you've got other presentations going on, basically. So I'm going to look at it from a slightly different angle, and I'm going to look at a fresh fruit category in the UK that's achieved a consistent premium over a long period of time, and let's look at how they've done it and see whether there's anything you can learn from them. And they're not too far from where you guys are based either. So I think the first thing is, are we talking about a brand or a variety? On the left-hand side there, we've got a nice shot of a beautiful-looking Red Delicious from Washington State in the US. That's a variety, though. On the right-hand side there, we've got a Pink Lady apple. This one appears to come from New Zealand. That is a brand. There is no such variety, actually, or no such variety is called Pink Lady. The varietal name, as you probably might know, is called Cripps Pink. And to become a Pink Lady, you need to reach certain coloration levels, certain levels of fruit maturity. And so not every Cripps Pink is a Pink Lady. And that's where sometimes people get a bit confused, basically. But I think you're going to be talking about, have we got a very good brand? Have we got a great brand? Or have we got just a very good variety? And sometimes people use the two interchangeably, and I'm not sure that's quite right. So it's a question to ask yourself, Ferdy, amongst yourself and your colleagues, I think. Have you got very good varieties? I think you have. Have you got a brand? You've got an image in the UK, and you've got a logo and all these sorts of things, but is it a genuine brand? I'm not quite so sure it is. I think there's a bit of more work to be done there in the future. If you look at what Pink Lady, the Pink Lady organisation have and what they do, can you be like them? There's some things they do that maybe you can't do, but I think we've done a bit of a checklist here of things that they do that you could look at them and say, well, look, perhaps we should be more like that than we are at the moment, basically. So first of all, they've got a great apple to begin with. I mean, visually, it's very attractive and it eats beautifully as well when it's in very good condition. So they've got a great apple. So you have to ask yourself, well, we've got great dried fruit here in South Africa, and I think you probably have, basically. So that's a good starting point. They're involved in their promotional activity in a wide range of consumer-facing activity, and they've been doing that for a long period of time. They're always looking at new derivatives of Cripps Pink. So, the sort of sense that what they've got now may not be good enough for the future, or they can get better in the future. So they've got a strong R&D base, and they've got a strong R&D program. They're always looking for the next better apple that they can come up with, basically. They have a portfolio approach to market development. So they're active in numbers of markets around the world. Europe, obviously, North America, increasingly in parts of the Middle East and Southeast Asia as well. But they don't treat every market the same. They have this sort of portfolio approach to some markets. They will say these are still growth markets for us. Some markets, I don't think any markets they have reached full maturity at the moment, but they will treat different markets around the world in a different way with different objectives, basically. So it's not sort of a one approach fits all, basically. They consistently invest in the brand. Obviously, again, their revenue streams are impacted by the number of trees that are planted and harvested each year, basically. But almost regardless of whether they have a good year or a bad year, they're always looking to invest in the brand and the promotion and the support to consumers and customers of that brand, basically. And they recognise that making people aware of Pink Lady is one thing, but making consumers buy it or encouraging consumers to buy it is another thing completely different again. So they're not content with just saying 50% of consumers in the UK recognise what a Pink Lady apple is. Basically, we need to get 50% of consumers in the UK buying Pink Lady apples. So awareness is one thing, but getting people to actually convert that awareness into consumption is something else. And that's something they work at over a period of time. They work very hard at trying to make that link between, or bridge the link between awareness and consumption. Basically, they have one thing they do have, which is a bit unique, is they have this royalty and licensing system. Some of you may be aware of this, but basically anybody who wants to grow a Pink Lady apple or then handle it through the supply chain all pays into the royalty and licensing system, and this is what helps generate their funding they need for R&D and promotion and all the other things they want to do as well, basically. And they also, I know, they work very hard at managing production. So they look to control the supply of fruit. They know how much fruit that is likely to be produced in any one year because they've got good data on what's being planted, what's being produced. And so they've got a good idea as the seasons change between northern and southern hemisphere seasons. They know how much fruit's going to be available in the market, and they work very hard. They've told me this to not to oversupply the market. They know if they oversupply the market, they will crash their premium, basically, and that's the one thing they do not want to do. So I know that if they get anywhere near oversupplying the market, they'll sort of boost the promotional activity to try and sort of clear the market out of fruit, basically, and make sure they don't oversupply the market. They almost sort of take great pride in always saying that, we're looking to slightly undersupply the market rather than just sell every piece of fruit we've got, basically. So there's some things there they do, some things you would find more difficult to replicate in your industry, but some things that you could learn there from, I'm sure. And so what could you learn overall from them? The one thing is that they've got a bit of a long-term plan here at work. That I was talking to one of their senior guys a couple of years ago, and I said, so look, let me in on the secret. What is the big secret to your success? And he said, it's just taken 20 years. And so I'm not saying that you've got to wait 20 years to be successful in the UK. I think you can one of the great advantages of learning and looking from other people is that you can short circuit some of the things they've done. You can also learn from some of the mistakes they've made as well, of course. But this guy just said to me, he said, there's no great secret, John. We're just a 20-year overnight success story. So, but time is a factor here, basically. To expect that you're just going to achieve a premium right from the start is probably a bit naive, basically. I think also they've got a situation where all their members, whether they're in Australia or New Zealand or South Africa or Chile or the United States or Europe, they're all working to the same end game, and they've got overall a fairly consensual style of management to the organisation. I know for a fact, there will be disagreements. And look, in any organisation, to pretend there aren't disagreements is, again, just a naive way of thinking, isn't it, basically? But particularly when they come out into the public limelight or onto the international stage, they are all on the same page. There's no room for sort of dissent amongst the ranks, as they say. So all members working towards the same end game, and in industries and businesses that look disunited, in public in particular, it's something we're quite good at in the UK from time to time in our agricultural and food sector. But industries that look disunited, they get picked off. They get picked off by their customers. They get picked off by their competitors. So again, one thing you can learn from them is to have a united front when you're talking to your customers and other people around the world. They do protect their brand. They spend quite a lot of money on legal agreements to underpin that. Again, that's something which is a bit unusual to the fresh fruit sector. They have a very strong R&D base, so whatever they're doing in terms of varietal development in particular, that's always at the forefront of their thinking. They're always looking to try and do better. They're not content with, this is the variety we had 5 years ago, it's what's going to sustain us for the next 5 years. They're always thinking about, because there's plenty of people watching Pink Lady in the fresh fruit sector saying, well, look, we could probably try and do that a bit later on, and whether that's the Jazz apple or there's some new varieties coming out of North America. Everybody's looking at Pink Lady saying, well, what can we learn from them? And can we beat them at their own game, basically? I think Pink Lady is still some way ahead, but they are very aware of the competitive threat that might be out there. I think one of the things that really distinguish them is that they often think a lot and I mean a lot, about the value of their crop, not just the volume of the crop. So look, farmers love producing crops, don't they? And they're sort of very proud when they have a record crop, and a good crop is better than a bad crop, that's for sure, basically. But often in the Pink Lady organisation, you hear them talking about the value of their crop rather than just the volume of the crop, basically. And they're always looking at how can they market their product, their brand, in a sort of innovative and attractive way to appeal to consumers. And again, if you look over a period of time at the sort of marketing campaigns they've run, particularly in the UK, I think as a consumer I've noticed, but also in the work I do at Proma, I've noticed that they're always changing the message a little bit. There's a core message they have, no pun intended there, of course, but they have a core message, but they're always looking to change it and move things on and try different things in terms of marketing, embracing social media and all this sort of things, and lots of other clever ideas to make sure that consumers are thinking about Pink Lady apples whenever they go shopping. They've got some of the best growers in the world. I mean, I think the reality is that not everybody can grow a Pink Lady apple. You have to be a fairly talented grower to do it. You have to be able to achieve or manage the ripening and the maturation of the fruit and the coloration of the fruit, and not everybody can do that. So I think around the world, it's fair to say they've got some of the best growers in the world. So for your industry to get a premium, you need to make sure you've got some of the best growers in the world, if not lots of them. They're always looking about innovation, whether that's varieties, packaging, marketing, and they're doing this all the time. It's not something they just, when they run out of steam on one particular issue, they say, "Oh, right, let's think about innovation." They're thinking about innovation all the time, basically. Again, it's not something you do. I think we see around the world, companies that are in the food sector that are innovative. Do they leave it till Friday afternoon to start thinking about innovation? No, they're thinking about innovation on Monday morning. It's a Monday morning activity, not a Friday afternoon activity. And I think the Pink Lady organisation are very good at this. They're always thinking about new varietal developments, new packaging, new marketing, and they're doing it all the time. And I think the other thing that sort of differentiates them, I think, and has allowed them to achieve this premium over a long period of time in the UK and in lots of other markets around the world. They think about consumers and customers a lot, as much as they do the apples. A lot of the senior people in the Pink Lady organisation are apple growers themselves, so clearly they think about production, but they're thinking about customers and consumers as much as they are apples. And farmers love farming, as I said, and why not? It's what you guys are good at. It's what you live for. It is your living. So why wouldn't you think about the production? But sometimes you've got to be thinking about not just the production of fruit and dried fruit, but also you're going to be thinking about the consumers and the customers of those products just as much as the actual production, and sort of lift your head above the parapet from time to time. And it's great fun talking about farming, but hey, you need to be talking about customers and consumers as well, a lot. Just to give an indication of the premium in the UK that can be sustained, this is taken from a little bit earlier on this year in the UK, and there we are on the left-hand side. We have, look, Pink Lady have a substantial premium, and look, these are other good varieties. They're not no hopers at all. But we've got Braeburn and Gala and Jazz and Golden Delicious and Envy and Granny Smith. They're all good varieties in the UK and have their own space in the market, basically. But Pink Lady is way ahead in terms of the premium that can be achieved. They've had that for a long time. They have it at the moment, and I think it's fair to say their objective in the future is to make sure they retain that premium position. But that's they're selling at over 60 pence. Down to a Braeburn at just over sort of 30 pence. So look, they have 100% premium almost in the market in a fairly narrow range of apple varieties. But Pink Lady would say we don't have a variety, we have a brand, and there's a subtle difference there. Basically, I think these are often Braeburn and Gala and Delicious and Smith, they're still varieties, I think, basically, and but Pink Lady is a brand, and there's a subtle difference, or quite a big difference actually in many cases. And I think that's how they managed to get a premium in the UK. They've tried to behave as much as possible as a brand, not just as a very good variety. So I think I'm convinced in South Africa, I know in South Africa, that you can produce great fruit. So there's a number of things I think you need to be doing and thinking about in the future. One is that you need to be sort of evaluating the success of your programs. your marketing programs in the UK. I know you've been working with Red Communications for a number of years now. Any sensible organisation would periodically review what we've done and what can we learn, what can we do better, what do we do for the future, and you need to move those programs on to the next stage. If you look at what Pink Lady do, as an example, what the sorts of promotional activities they were doing sort of 3-4 years ago, they've moved on completely into a different sort of area totally now. I think you always need to be thinking about, do we understand what's happening in the UK food market? What are the trends? How do we fit into that? And what the opportunities, and maybe in some cases, what are the threats to us as that as well? I think you can learn from others. I'm a great believer personally in transferable skills. I think you can look at other products, you can look at other countries, and don't be afraid to do that. And sometimes you might get a nice warm feeling saying, hey, we're doing pretty well against these people. Sometimes you can say, hey, there's a bit of catching up to be done, and there's things we can learn from that. I think at some point you need to be looking at other markets. I know that the main markets in Europe for you are the UK and Germany. There are other markets in Europe that might merit some sort of investigation, but also most agricultural food companies around the world, that when they look at where their potential growth is going to come from, they look at Southeast Asia. That they are difficult, challenging markets, but there's no that's not a reason not to look at them and see what you could do there and what the opportunity might be for your industry there as well. But you can't probably rely on the UK and Germany forever and a day. I think you need to leverage all the funding you can possibly get, either from, I know that the government supports you in some cases, but also from within your own industry. And you need to, because one of the realities is, how do we get a premium in the UK? You need to invest in the brand, you need to invest in the product, you need to support customers. That's not cheap, not always cheap. And so you need to leverage every sort of aspect of funding you can to allow you to do that. And I think overall, I think you've got good varieties in South Africa. It's a bit like the Washington Apple people. They've got some great varieties. Have they got a brand? No, not really. Pink Lady is a brand. Washington Apple is a source of supply. They have an image in the market. And they got good varieties, but you probably need to be behaving. The South African dried fruit industry needs to be sort of taking the best aspects of what Pink Lady do and others, from your looking at who does this and who does it well in terms of point 4 there, learning from other products and other countries. But you probably need to be behaving a bit more like a brand rather than just saying we've got great varieties. One word about this group, final slide, is that this is the California raisin industry. I'm sure you know them well. They've had a promotional program in the UK probably for the best part of sort of 25 years, maybe even a bit longer. Their market share has been coming under pressure over that time, for a lot of that time actually, from the Turkish industry, from who've got sort of low, obviously sort of inherently lower costs of production, and they are a lower cost supplier. There are sometimes concerns over Turkey vis-a-vis sort of product traceability and the use of pesticides and fungicides and this sort of thing. But Turkey have been remarkably successful in the UK over a long period of time, and don't let anybody sort of kid you, that's not the case at all. The Californians, in the face of this, what have they done? They kept promoting. They're still involved in a very active trade servicing program. They do consumer work, they have social media campaigns, and they stayed in the market. Again, if you want to get a premium in the market and you think this can be done in the short term or by sort of ducking and diving in and out of the market as and when it suits, that won't work. The Californian raisins industry have retained their premium position in the UK. It's probably not quite as strong as it was a few years ago, maybe, but they've stayed in the UK. They've stayed in the UK. They've carried on promoting. They've carried on supporting their customers, and that's why they still trade at a significant premium over the Turkish, or one of the reasons why they still trade at a significant premium over the Turkish crop. Ferdy, I hope you've found that interesting. I hope your colleagues have found it interesting. As I said, I'm more than happy. I'm going to stay around now, and we'll be more than happy to join in any conversations you have later on in the morning, and answer any specific questions, or comment on any of the aspects of the things that you're talking about there down in South Africa this morning. Thank you for asking me to join you. I appreciate it very much. Obviously, we haven't been able to travel very much in the last 18 months from the UK anywhere, but believe you me, given half a chance, I'll be down in South Africa before too long. And thanks once again. I hope you found it interesting, and happy to join you for Q&A in a little bit.
Thank you very much there to John Giles, Divisional Director at Promar International, and describing the art and science of marketing and promoting Raisins South Africa in the UK. John is with us now. John, is there merit in developing a brand and growing brand equity for Raisins in South Africa?
Look, it's not for me to tell you what to do down there, Mark, but thanks very much for letting me join you this morning, and I hope people have found that interesting. And I've been listening into some of the previous presentations, and my Afrikaans isn't my strongest language, but I've been able to sort of pick out some of the things that people have been saying. I think some of the first presentations talked about the power of brands. To me, not just for dried fruit, but the world is full of agricultural products. And so to get this premium, you need to be able to stand out in the crowd, in what is a crowded marketplace. So look, in the UK, we can buy dried fruit from South Africa, California, Chile, from you guys, from Afghanistan, sometimes China, India. Hey, there's no shortage. Even some of the European suppliers, Greece, these sorts of countries. So there's no shortage of products. So to get the premium that you guys, although we all want a premium, everybody wants a premium. Promar wants a premium for the work we do, I can assure you, Mark. But yeah, so how are you going to do that? You've got to stand out from the crowd, basically, and just saying we've got good raisins. That's a starting point. You've got to have good raisins and good dried fruit, but you need to be thinking about something else beyond that. And I know the industry structure is, creating a industry-wide brand is quite challenging, but I think, as I said in my presentation, I think you've got to look at perhaps what other people do and say, well, look, we can't perhaps be exactly like them. You can't. I think the first presentation was talking about people like Unilever and Microsoft and Apple, and these are huge consumer brands, aren't they? So you can't be like Microsoft maybe in your industry, but you can look at what they do and how they do it and try and learn from them. And it's got to be something you think about. Otherwise, you will probably remain a very good supplier of dried fruit, one of a number.
And as you say, focus on your own unique selling point as a brand, and find out what is a differentiator from your brand that makes it better than the rest. John, one of the questions that has come is, what percentage, in your view, is a good percentage of expenses to spend on promotion? Difficult question to answer, I'm sure.
Yeah, the short answer to that is as much as possible.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, it's a question that is asked around the world, and if in agriculture and in sort of the broader marketing discipline. So one of the things I'm involved with, Mark, is the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK. They have quite a big infrastructure and a food and agricultural group. So you can look at other industries. So some industries in agriculture, if you're spending 5%, that's a lot. But if you're a branded IT company, you'd be spending considerably more, 15-20%. The same question gets asked about how much people spend on R&D. Our parent company, which is a livestock genetics company, spend about 10% of revenue on R&D. So, but the short answer is almost as much as, in some ways, it may be the wrong question. What should we be? It's what can we afford? And that means looking at all the expenditure that Raisins South Africa would have, and say, but marketing and branding. Look, I'm a bit biased, with doing what I do for a living, but you need to be spending as much as possible. I mean, the Raisins people in the UK probably spending, historically, 7 figures. Probably not as much now. But that's what you're up against.
Sure. A question that has come from the floor from Johan Karsten is that it's a question of measurement, I guess. And how does one measure a return on investment? So for Raisins South Africa, their investment in marketing, how does one measure a deliverable in return that has been gained from that?
Yeah, again, I think that's a really good question, Mark, and it's one that people around the world ask. And particularly in sort of primary industries, growers work very hard for a living, and they see this money being spent in international markets, and sort of what are we getting? Are we getting good value for money? Look, I suppose that when there's a number of measures, one is the ultimate measure is, have we sold more product? And you know, so what did we spend, and have we sold more product, and what was that increase in sales worth to us? Basically, that is the sort of, I think if you're an accountant, and I'm glad to say I'm not an accountant, you know, all due respect to the accountancy profession, but that's what an accountant would say, wouldn't it? Look, what did we spend, and what did we achieve? But one of the issues is there are so many things that can impact on a generic industry promotional campaign, and it could be anything from currency fluctuations, it could be weather conditions in the growing areas, it could be what's happening in the target market, could be what other people are happening. I think we've seen some really good, what we believe around the world are really good promotional activities, and sometimes they don't always achieve every single year what they're setting out to do, and that's because factors that they can't control. Other times we've seen, you know, I remember looking at a promotional campaign once, and we thought, to be honest, we thought it was pretty average, but the exchange rate moved in the right way for the industry concerned, and it looked like it was the best thing since sliced bread. I'm not sure that was fundamentally the case, to be honest. So you have to have a sort of combination, I think, of hard measures, but that can only be achieved over a period of time. And my understanding is that you've been promoting in the UK with Red Communications for 2 or 3 years. On a season by season basis, it can be a bit misleading, but I think over a period of time you can form a judgment and essentially you have to go back to first principles. What were we trying to do? Are we doing the right things? Has it been, not everything that you try will be successful all the time, but you have to learn and say, well, actually, perhaps we don't do that again, or perhaps we do more of this. But I think there's hard measures and there's a few softer measures as well.
But just keeping that activity in the market to keep the brand Raisins SA alive in the mind of consumers. And I guess one of the questions is, can we afford to promote ourselves? And another question is, can we afford not to promote? Because if we don't promote ourselves, we just leave a vacuum for someone else to step into.
I think if you, I think you hit, well, I mean, you sort of took the words out of my mouth almost, Mark, there. I think, you know, what can we afford to promote? I mean, you can always find other things to spend your money on. And there are other things to spend your money on, you know, some of the work that's being done on climate change and climate change mitigation and ethical trading initiatives and the R&D. I mean, there's lots of things to do. So when you promote, you need to make sure you have got a tight plan, you've got it structured, you know what the objectives are, you know what you're trying to do. And then again, you may not need to evaluate the program every year, but you know, periodically you need to sort of say, well, let's take a rain check on what we're doing and is it making a difference, as you would do with any sort of business activity. I think it's a question of, you know, can you afford not to promote as much as anything?
Yes.
And yeah, I can see there's a question there about Pink Lady possibly from.
Yes, there is. So, and also Ferdi Botha, the CEO of Raisins SA, will also speak to us. But the question here, if packers start to downplay each other in the UK market, we have to play price, says the question asker. But if we can put a quality sticker onto all the packers' products from Raisins South Africa, then we can start to build a Pink Lady brand. What would you say to that?
Look, having a sticker on the pack is a starting point, isn't it? I mean, I think sometimes people believe that if we put a sticker on something, that's it. We've done it. We've created a brand. You know, it's sort of developing. Look, there's lots of textbooks on how you create brands and whatever. And they're worth reading. And so, having a sticker on the pack is one thing. Creating a brand is another thing altogether. And I think it's interesting. So we talked about 2 industries in particular today. So Pink Lady, well, they started off in the UK with absolutely minimal amounts of fruit, probably about 20 years ago. I think the first year they exported to the UK from Australia, it was something like 500 boxes. You wouldn't have even noticed they were in the market, but they've built it up over a period of time. And what they've done, you know, whether they've had a good year or a bad, in that time they'll have had better years than others, but they've carried on, you know, believing what they're doing is the right thing and having a sort of a deep commitment to a brand. And yes, look, Pink Lady have a nice sticker, but they have an awful lot more than that. So and the same with the California Raisins people. They've had a difficult time in the last you know, sort of 5, 6, 7 years in particular. The Turkish industry have come on leaps and bounds, and I suppose at some stage they could have possibly said, look, let's pack up our bags and we'll go home, or we'll go to some. They decided to stick in the UK market. You know, their budgets have been reduced, I think, accordingly. because they are looking at other markets in other parts of the world. So look, Southeast Asia is a great area of fascination for most people in agriculture and food at the moment. But they've carried on at it. They've stuck at it. They've done the hard yards. They have trade promotion. They believe it's important to support the industry. They're involved in one or two industry organisations in the UK. They support their customers. They've also sort of worked out which customers do we really want to supply and which ones do we really want to support, rather than perhaps a more generic industry campaign. And they could have packed their bags up and said, let's go home. Well, they've decided not. They've stuck in the UK, and sort of doing this on an in and out basis, that doesn't work. And we've seen that from South Africa in the past, Mark. One or two industry organisations have a campaign for a couple of years, doesn't always achieve exactly what they hope for, and they say, right, we'll pack up, we'll pack up and go and do something else. And you think, well, you've only just started.
And tenacity is what keeps the brand equity alive.
I always remember the guy from Australia, from Pink Lady, and I said, what's the secret? And he said, nothing more than being a 20-year overnight success story. And it doesn't have to take years, but thinking you can sort of change the world and changing the positioning of South African fruit in the UK market in the very short term on a season by season basis. Now you've got at some point you might do what you're doing in the UK for 5 years and say, well maybe it's not working, and so then you have to think hard and long about what you are going to do in the future. But it's not achieved in the short term.
Sure. At this point, I'd like to bring in the Chief Executive Officer, John, thank you, of Raisins South Africa, and hello to Ferdi Botha. And you're going to comment as well on the return on investment and how we should keep the promotions alive.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, just maybe to put things in context, I think if we just maybe make reference to what John has referred to, a 5% level on total output is maybe a good benchmark to compare spend on promotional activity. If we take that into consideration and we consider that the total value of South African raisins exported slightly exceeds 2 billion rand annually, and we work on a 5%, then that equates to a substantial number. I think at the moment we are far under that specific number at the moment. I think our budget on marketing is actually exceptionally low. But I think the gains that we've been able to achieve to grow our volumes to the UK by 300% in a period of 24 months, I think speaks volumes itself. And then also it's good always to benchmark oneself against other industries or similar product categories, like I think what John has made reference to, California Raisins. They've been building a strong brand over the past 60 years. I know in the past years their marketing budget probably is in the order of 60 to 70 million rand. Just to put it in context to our spend of about 5 million rand per annum. And in Turkey, I think Turkey's investment in growing the Chinese market, if I'm correct, I'm not sure if John maybe has a value on that, but I think that's about $1 million, 15 million rand just to grow one market. Currently, what we are investing in the UK, Germany, and the French market and the South African market for, again, the 5 million rand. So I think just to put things in context, and then I think this is also not an exercise that is unique to raisins, not at all. I think there was a few years ago, about 5 years ago, a study performed by the National Agricultural Marketing Council of South Africa, and where they've shown scientifically through research tracking investment in other commodities. If I can recall correctly, it was in citrus, table grapes, wine, and then stone and pome fruit. And over the long term, over a period of 15 years, the return on investment again showed that it's definitely a must, and the cost of not doing it, I think you mentioned or made reference to that, the cost of not doing it, I think is suicidal, if I can put it maybe in those terms. And then, of course, I think, as John said and made reference to his presentation on Pink Lady specifically, it is not something that happens overnight. Nobody's going to do it for yourself. So we need to take ownership as industry to be proactive, get involved. And then just maybe a closing remark. At the moment, there's also a global drive between different origins of product, between Turkey, South Africa, California, Australia, Chile, Argentina, also to work as a collective to stimulate global demand. And I think other commodities such as Avos has done it with great success in the past. Again, it takes money, it takes time, it takes a bit of clever thinking. So, yeah, I would like to maybe conclude my inputs on that note, Mark. Thank you so much. And thank you, John, for your presentation as well.
My pleasure, Ferdy. It's just I wanted to. I know you've got to move on to other things. Probably, I was just going to say that I think there's a difference. Again, we talk about brands and varieties. There's also sort of brands and image. Creating an image is one thing in a market. Creating a real rock solid brand is something else. I think sometimes I mean, obviously everybody is looking at how much does this cost, and some organisations are a bit more tight-lipped about this sort of thing than others. But there's lots of information on what companies in the UK, branded food companies, are spending. I can send some stuff through, Ferdy, if it would be useful. So for FMCG food products, they're spending considerable amounts of money. Let's just say that. But I think sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes people say, we're going to spend a lot of money. Actually, it's how you spend the money you've got, and you making that work hard for you, and being clever, being ingenious, using social media these days. One of the great advantages of social media is it's one way that small food companies can compete with big branded food companies. It doesn't have to be massively expensive. You can spend as much as you want is the answer. But it's how you spend the money and what you spend it on, and again, periodically, how do you assess how successful you've been? But I'm just thinking, I know that we've done some work with the Chileans on cherries in China, so it's a bit of a tongue twister. They spent $5 million a year on their promotions just on cherries in China, but it's a huge market for them. If you look again at the generic funding, from the USDA, they've got a program called the Market Access Program, and there's lots of. You'll see exactly how much the California Raisins organization get. It's all very transparent. But the US government provide to the various industry groups that exist in the states, not just for dried fruit, but for all other commodities as well. It's about it's only over the years it's gone up and down, but it's normally $150-200 million. So, leveraging funding, leveraging match funding. How do you make your money work hard? Try and leverage funding from other sources as well. And I'm sorry if I appear to be sitting in the slightly dark here. It's an unusually sunny morning here in the UK for towards the end of September. And I'm working from home, and I've got a window open. I'm up in the attic, and the sun's coming in. And I just need to bring the blind down a bit, otherwise. Yeah.
But, that's absolutely fine. Certainly, what you're saying is.
And I found this morning very interesting.
Absolutely, and I can tell you that the same amount of participants that started this discussion some time ago, an hour and a half ago, are still tuned in. So that obviously shows that this webinar is worth its weight in gold.
It's one measure of So I mean, you should evaluate how successful this event has been, shouldn't you? That's one measure, Mark, that people are still here.
Indeed. Thank you so much there to John Giles, Divisional Director at Promar International, and talking about the science and the art of promoting of brands. And I think there's a lot to celebrate as well, as Ferdy Botha, CEO of Raisins South Africa, just said. Celebrate the successes. 300% growth in the market in the UK. So there is lots to celebrate. So I think we're going to wrap things up now. There are lots of questions still flowing, and those will be dealt with by email. A big thank you to Becky van Aarde and Ferdi Botha from Raisins South Africa, who've worked tirelessly in the background to make this webinar a success. Thank you to everybody who attended today, this FNB Landbou Praatjie, this agricultural talk. And thanks so much to FNB for being the overall sponsor of this morning's event. And as we can see, there's a tremendous amount of innovation and human capital invested in this industry. We're at a very challenging point in the world, with COVID-19 still having a very negative impact on everything that we do. And in South Africa, we're on just a couple of weeks away from local government elections, and there's still going to be a lot of hot air spoken and a lot of political emotion and drama being felt across the country. But we are resilient and we are strong, and we will not only see this period through, but we will flourish. It's what we do. We are South Africans. So, lastly, thanks again to FNB Bank. Thanks to all the speakers this morning, everybody who participated. And the questions, as I said, will be dealt with on email. And from me, Mark Jennings, it's been an absolute pleasure to be your host this morning. I have so enjoyed being with you. And until the next time there is an agricultural talk, it's from me saying goodbye.